There is a strange silence on every quantum journey, and almost no one talks about it. It arrives suddenly, often right when you feel most aligned, most connected, most certain that the universe is listening. Then, without warning, the synchronicities vanish. The repeating numbers that once danced on your clocks are gone. The chance encounters that mirrored your desires fade away. Even your dreams seem quieter, as though the volume has been turned down. Many people panic in this moment. They assume they have lost their alignment, slipped out of the field, or somehow failed the process. But this silence is not a punishment. It is the signal that a shift is closer than ever before. Think of a symphony. Before the most powerful crescendo, there is always a pause. The musicians hold their breath, the instruments rest, and the audience leans in. The silence is not emptiness. It is anticipation, the space before the explosion of sound. In quantum manifestation, the same principle unfolds. The universe pulls back, not because you are disconnected, but because the field is reorganizing itself. You are standing in the pause between movements, and if you can learn to recognize this pause, you will stop fighting it and start seeing it as your greatest portal. Physics mirrors this truth. Before a particle leaps into a new state, it does not simply jump, it enters superposition, hovering in uncertainty, existing everywhere and nowhere at once. Uncertainty is not chaos, it is possibility. When synchronicities fall silent, you are in that superposition, between timelines, waiting for crystallization. But trust is hard in silence, isn't it? The human mind craves evidence. We are conditioned to seek signs that reassure us we are on the right path. When those signs disappear, our first reaction is to fear that nothing is happening. Yet quantum science reveals the opposite. The moment when you cannot see the evidence is the moment when the most is happening behind the scenes. David Bohm, the physicist who introduced the idea of the implicate order, explained that what you perceive as reality is only an unfolding of a deeper hidden structure. Silence is not absence, it is rearrangement. Spiritually, mystics have long understood this. The Desert Fathers and Mothers described the dark night of the soul, not as failure, but as initiation. Neville Goddard declared that persistence in the silence births the miracle, because imagination works beneath appearances. Even Joe Dispenza teaches that in the absence of external proof, the nervous system learns true coherence. You are not losing the field. The field is teaching you to stand in it without needing proof. Picture the night sky just before dawn. If you judged only by darkness, you would believe the sun would never return. Yet the silence of night is the guarantee of morning. The stillness before the quantum leap works the same way. Your higher self draws you into this quiet to release your dependence on signs and external validation. It asks you to anchor deeper into your own coherence. If you find yourself in this space where the synchronicities have faded, the numbers have stopped, the universe feels still, know this. You are not off track. Quite the opposite. You are standing in the chamber where transformation is forged. You are resting in the pause before the leap. Like the heartbeat that requires stillness between contractions, this silence is not an error. It is essential for life itself. And now, the question emerges. Why do synchronicities stop right before something big? To answer this, we must look again at both quantum physics and human psychology. In quantum mechanics, the observer effect shows us that awareness collapses waves into particles, probabilities into realities. Synchronicities are glimpses of that collapse in action. They are moments when the field bends visibly to meet your consciousness. But here lies the paradox. If the universe gave you endless synchronicities, your nervous system would cling to them like crutches. You would become addicted to signs instead of alignment. This is why, right before a quantum leap, the signs stop. Not because the field has abandoned you, but because it is training you to embody your frequency without external proof. It is like learning to ride a bicycle. At first, someone holds the seat, steadying your balance. Early synchronicities are like that supportive hand. They stabilize, they reassure. But eventually, the hand must let go. The silence is the release. You may wobble, you may panic, but this is where you prove that you can hold your own frequency. Without this release, you would never master alignment. You would only master dependency. Neuroscience confirms this with the concept of predictive coding. Your brain constantly builds models of reality from past experience. Synchronicities disrupt those models. They are anomalies, proof that your awareness can bend probability. But when a new timeline is about to stabilize, your brain requires stillness to rewire. What feels like silence to you is actually deep integration to your subconscious. That is why restlessness often rises when synchronicities stop. People mistake integration for absence, but every spiritual tradition echoes the same truth. Yogis spoke of pratyahara, the withdrawal of the senses, not as emptiness but as preparation for union. Christian mystics called it the cloud of unknowing, the silence before revelation. Neville Goddard taught that you must persist in assumption without evidence, because the absence of signs is not the death of your desire but its gestation. The silence is womb space. It is the unseen gestation chamber of your new reality. So remember this: the silence is not your enemy. It is your initiation. The absence of synchronicities is not abandonment. It is alignment training. You are being stretched into self-sufficiency, taught to embody your vibration without constant reminders. And in that space, the leap begins. The pause is proof of progress. The silence is the signal. You are not waiting for life to start. Life is already rearranging itself in your favor. Quietly, invisibly, inevitably. Even Dr. Joe Dispenza reminds us that true coherence is proven not when the outer world is full of signs, but when it goes quiet, because that is when the inner world must hold the frequency on its own. This is why synchronicities stop. Not as punishment, not as abandonment, but as training. The quantum field is ensuring that you can carry the resonance of your chosen reality without leaning on external props. Imagine if every single doubt you felt was instantly met with another number flashing on a license plate, or a random message appearing at just the right time. You would never graduate into mastery. You would remain a child of signs, dependent on proof, addicted to confirmation. The silence, then, is your graduation ceremony. It is the universe stepping back, whispering, "You already know how to hold this frequency. Now prove it to yourself." This pause is the threshold between timelines, a sacred initiation into independence of vibration. There is a deeper scientific layer to this as well. In physics, when a system reaches a state of coherence, the fluctuations naturally reduce. Noise diminishes, not because energy is absent, but because resonance has stabilized. What you perceive as silence is the tuning fork of your reality vibrating so purely that it no longer wobbles with interference. The closer you come to the new timeline, the less chaos you encounter. Life appears quieter not because nothing is happening, but because alignment has smoothed the waves. And yet, here is the danger: misinterpretation. Most people, when the signs stop, spiral into doubt. They say to themselves, "Maybe I was wrong. Maybe the universe forgot me." That very doubt disrupts the coherence, pulling them backward into the old frequency. Then the cycle restarts, and signs must appear again to restabilize the wavering mind. But when you truly understand silence for what it is, the loop breaks. You stop begging the universe for breadcrumbs and realize you are the bread. You stop looking outward for validation and instead embody the truth, that the alignment itself is the evidence. In that space, the leap is inevitable. So when synchronicities vanish, don't panic. Smile. Recognize the pause as the hand letting go of the bicycle seat, releasing you into balance. This is not the universe abandoning you, it is the universe trusting you. And that trust is the most radiant signal of all. It means you are closer than ever to your quantum shift. It means your coherence has reached a point where proof is no longer necessary. Now let us go deeper, because silence is only half the story. Have you noticed that right before a major breakthrough, your emotions spike instead of settle? One moment you feel unstoppable, as if destiny itself is breathing through you, and the next you are awash in doubt, anxiety, or even despair. This confuses many seekers. They think turbulence means they are failing, but paradoxically, this storm is the proof of transformation. In quantum physics, before a particle collapses into one state, it hovers in superposition, flickering between multiple possibilities. That turbulence of uncertainty is not error, but the fertile field of possibility. Inside you, the same process unfolds. When you are on the edge of a quantum leap, your consciousness hovers between timelines. The old reality you are leaving and the new reality you are entering both vibrate within you. The emotional fluctuations are the human translation of quantum superposition. Neuroscience adds another dimension. The brain relies on predictive coding, constantly generating models of reality from past experiences. When you approach a new timeline, this predictive model resists. The subconscious floods you with emotions, doubt, fear, sadness, in an attempt to anchor you back into what feels familiar and safe. These emotions are not proof of failure. They are alarms from the old self, desperate to recycle itself. At the same time, your higher self is pulling you forward, flooding you with inspiration, joy, and anticipation. The collision of these forces, the outdated brain model, and the emerging energetic alignment, creates the emotional roller coaster. You are literally oscillating between worlds. Mystics have long described this inner storm. The Buddhists called it the burning ground, where the ego resists dissolution right before awakening. Saint John of the Cross described it as the dark night of the soul, not punishment but preparation for divine union. Joe Dispenza teaches that the body is addicted to familiar emotions, and breaking free from survival states like fear or stress feels deeply uncomfortable at first. Neville Goddard urged persistence in assumption, holding the feeling of the wish fulfilled even when emotions fluctuate wildly. All traditions point to the same truth. The storm is not the end, but the passage. It is the initiation ritual of transformation. From a vibrational perspective, emotions are energy in motion. When your frequency accelerates to match your chosen reality, everything within you that does not resonate with that higher vibration rises to the surface. Old doubts emerge, past traumas echo, latent fears flare up. This is not because you are regressing, but because those frequencies cannot cross the threshold into the new timeline. They surface only to be released. It is like a rocket preparing for liftoff. Right before it escapes Earth's atmosphere, it experiences the greatest resistance. That resistance is not a setback. It is confirmation that breakthrough is imminent. The key is not to resist the turbulence, but to witness it. When you push against doubt, you empower it. When you collapse into fear, you recycle it. But when you observe your emotions as part of the recalibration process, their grip dissolves. You stop identifying with them. You step into the role of the witness, the conscious observer. Just as in quantum mechanics, observation collapses uncertainty into clarity, your awareness transforms the storm into passage. And in that moment you recognize, silence is trust, turbulence is proof, and both are gateways to the leap already unfolding within you. This is why mindfulness practices, breathwork, and nervous system regulation are not optional luxuries but essential companions on the path of manifestation. They are the anchors that keep you steady when your internal weather turns stormy. They allow you to remain coherent, to hold the higher frequency, even when emotional turbulence tries to pull you back into old cycles. So let's make this deeply practical. The next time doubt whispers, do not interpret it as failure. Reframe it as evidence that your old self is dying. When fear rises, remind yourself that turbulence is nothing more than the rockets shaking as it leaves the launch pad. And when joy or inspiration washes over you, receive them as previews of the timeline you are calling in. By shifting your perspective, you transform the roller coaster from contradiction into confirmation. The flux of emotion is not random. It is the echo of your own leap unfolding in real time. And here is the most important thing to remember. The intensity does not last forever. Just as storms eventually pass, so too do these heightened states of emotion. Once your new timeline stabilizes, calm replaces chaos. The silence that follows is not emptiness, but profound coherence. It is the moment manifestation feels effortless, as if the universe is moving through you, instead of you pushing toward it. So if you've felt your emotions spiking, if you've been swinging between extremes, don't panic, celebrate it. Recognize the turbulence as undeniable proof that your new reality is within reach. Instead of fearing the waves, learn to surf them, because beyond those crashing emotions lies the collapse into the timeline you've chosen all along. Now let us step into a stage that most people misunderstand, the so-called final test. Many believe that when challenges suddenly arise right before a breakthrough, it must be the universe testing them, as if a cosmic examiner were standing at the gate, grading their worthiness. But here is the deeper truth. The universe does not test you, it reflects you. What you interpret as a test is actually your subconscious mind replaying the last echoes of your old identity. It is not punishment from above. It is patterning from within. This is why the very obstacles you dread may in fact be the clearest signs that your quantum leap is near. Science illuminates this beautifully. Neuroscience tells us that about 95% of your daily behaviors and emotional responses are automatic, driven by subconscious programs written through past experiences. Your brain is a predictive coding machine, always trying to replicate what feels familiar. So when you stand on the edge of transformation, those old programs activate one final time. Arguments erupt, fears flare, opportunities collapse not because they are genuine threats, but because your nervous system equates familiarity with safety. Dr. Bruce Lipton often emphasizes this truth. Subconscious programming is stronger than conscious intention, unless the cycle is disrupted. From the perspective of quantum physics, this so-called test is nothing but the collapse of old wave patterns. When a new frequency is about to stabilize, the remnants of the old one surge loudly before dissolving. Think of resonance. When two vibrations meet, the weaker one eventually fades, but not before amplifying itself in a final flare. That flare is what you experience as the final challenge. Spiritually, mystics across traditions have spoken of this threshold. Sufis call it the place where the ego resists surrender with all its might. Neville Goddard described it as persistence. The universe will keep mirroring your old assumptions until you insist on embodying the new. Joe Dispenza reminds us that the body, addicted to familiar emotions, will generate scenarios designed to lure you back into stress or scarcity. This is how the mirror shows itself in daily life. You meditate, you visualize abundance, you feel aligned, and suddenly an unexpected bill arrives, a fight breaks out, or an opportunity seems to collapse. Most people panic here, believing everything has gone wrong, but this is precisely the moment of decision. The quantum field is not asking you in words, but in vibration. Will you react as the old self or respond as the new? If you fall into fear and frustration, you reinforce the outdated identity. If you remain calm, coherent, faithful to your chosen reality, you prove to yourself that you have already shifted. In that demonstration, the old pattern dissolves. Think of it like a video game. Just before advancing to the next level, you face the final boss. The challenge is not evidence you're failing. It is evidence that you're closer than ever to breakthrough. That so-called final boss is never something foreign or new. It is nothing more than a magnified reflection of what you have already faced and overcome. The universe is not standing against you, blocking your progress, demanding you to prove yourself. It is holding up a mirror, showing you in condensed form the very energies that are now ready to leave you. If you can remain steady, if you can hold alignment in the heat of that reflection, the boss collapses and you step forward freely. Alchemy gives us a beautiful metaphor here. Before gold emerges, the impurities rise to the surface of the fire. They bubble, they resist, they create chaos. But when they burn away, purity shines through. The same is true in your life. The turbulence before your leap is not destruction. It is purification. And when you recognize this truth, you stop fearing the fire and start trusting the transformation. The practical key is awareness. When challenges appear, the reflex of the old mind is to cry out, "Why is this happening to me?" But the awakened response is different. What version of me is this situation asking me to embody? That shift alone changes the entire landscape. Suddenly, the difficulty is no longer punishment, it becomes initiation. Old patterns rise not to crush you, but to give you one last chance to choose differently. Each time you choose differently, you anchor more deeply into your new frequency. Every decision becomes a declaration that you are no longer ruled by the past. And let me make this clear. The challenge you are facing right now is not a setback. It is very likely the sign that your new reality is only steps away. The frustration, the doubt, the temptation to fall back into old habits, these are not failures. They are shadows cast by the rising light of your new horizon. If this resonates, anchor it right now. Declare it. Say to yourself, "I am ready to pass the test," not because some cosmic judge demands it, but because you are declaring it to yourself. That declaration is your signal to the field that the old story no longer controls you. It is the act of conscious alignment that collapses the past and locks in the future. And when you make this shift, something extraordinary happens. The so-called test dissolves, and what follows is not more chaos, but an unmistakable calm. This calm is not shallow relief. It is the signal that your nervous system has reset. It is the breath you didn't know you were holding finally exhaled. It is the physiological confirmation that your quantum leap is stabilizing. You move from chaos to coherence, from survival to creation, from contraction into flow. This reset can be felt in your very body. Your heart slows, your breath deepens, your immune system strengthens. In neuroscience, this is the parasympathetic nervous system reclaiming dominance, the branch of your biology designed for rest, healing, and regeneration. For most people, Life is lived in the grip of the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight on constant repeat. Cortisol and adrenaline become the background music of daily existence. But when you stop reacting to old triggers and hold the energy of your new frequency, your entire biology shifts into a new state. Dr. Joe Dispenza describes this as moving from survival into creation, when the body stops signaling danger and begins to embody alignment. Quantum physics gives us another lens. Every system, before it stabilizes into a new state, must pass through turbulence. In nonlinear dynamics, this is called the bifurcation point, the moment when one trajectory dissolves and another emerges. Your nervous system feels this turbulence and translates it into sensations, emotions, and even chaos. But when you persist in coherence, the turbulence collapses, and your biology recognizes the new path as its baseline. That is why the calm that follows feels so profound. It is not emptiness. It is your body syncing to the rhythm of your chosen reality. Spiritual traditions have always honored this moment. In Zen Buddhism, it is known as Satori, the sudden glimpse of awakening when everything feels lighter, clearer, more connected. In Christian mysticism, it is called the peace that surpasses understanding. Different languages, same essence. After surrendering your old self, you are bathed in a peace that is both mental and physical, both emotional and spiritual. You feel it in your chest, in your breath, in your very cells. It is not abstract, it is embodied proof that you are new. You will notice it in daily life as well. The argument that once would have stolen your energy now passes without weight. The financial stress that used to spark panic now feels neutral, even manageable. The craving to control, to chase, to obsess falls quiet. In its place arises a soft trust. Problems may not vanish instantly, but they no longer trigger you the same way. And when you are no longer broadcasting fear, the field responds with synchronicities, opportunities, and solutions that match your elevated state. This is why life feels smoother, why manifestation becomes easier. The reset also transforms your biology into a new instrument. Research on heart-brain coherence shows that when heart rhythms become smooth and coherent, brainwaves follow suit. This harmony produces emotional stability, sharper cognition, and heightened intuition. Your body becomes a finely tuned antenna for the quantum field. Possibilities are perceived more clearly. Opportunities arrive more quickly. Time itself feels different, less like a linear pressure, more like a flowing present moment. And yet, here is the paradox worth noting. The calm after the storm may feel almost too quiet. Many people mistake this stillness for stagnation, as though nothing is happening. But do not be fooled. This silence is not absence. It is stabilization. It is the signature of coherence, the sound of your new timeline locking into place. That calm you feel after the turbulence is not emptiness. It is the presence of alignment. Think of an arrow drawn back in a bow. In the stillness before release, all the energy, all the potential is already there. Nothing more needs to be added. That quiet moment is not the end of your shift. It is the confirmation that the arrow is about to fly. If you honor the calm instead of fearing it, you discover it actually accelerates manifestation. This is why meditation, breathwork, and gratitude rituals are so powerful. They train your nervous system to stay in coherence, to embody that steady calm more consistently. But here is the deeper truth. Once you have passed the so-called final test, the calm is no longer just a practice. It becomes your natural state. Your body remembers it, your field amplifies it, and reality bends itself to match it. So if you feel strangely calm right now, even after days or weeks of turbulence, don't underestimate that feeling. That calm is your nervous system whispering to you. The leap has already happened. The shift is real. You have moved from reacting to creating, from surviving to embodying. And this state is not fragile. It is not temporary. It is the foundation for everything that comes next. Stay with me, because in the next stage we will explore how to stabilize this state fully. Because the real art of manifestation is not flickering into your new timeline once it is living there, until it becomes your home. The signs, the turbulence, the silence, the calm, these are not random episodes. They are the universal pattern of transformation. But here's what most people miss. A quantum leap isn't just about breakthrough moments. It is about stabilization. Without stabilization, the new frequency flickers. One day you feel inspired. The next you sink back into doubt. True mastery is not about occasional leaps, but about carrying the vibration of your new self until it crystallizes into your lived environment. Neuroscience shows us how this happens. Stabilization is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. Every time you embody your new frequency, new neural pathways are formed. Every time you slip back into old reactions, the brain defaults to its old wiring. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. Not effort, not struggle, but steady repetition of coherence. But Dr. Joe Dispenza often reminds us, nerve cells that fire together, wire together. The more you inhabit your new self, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually, the old self feels like a distant dream, and the new self feels like home. Quantum mechanics mirrors this process. When a wave collapses into a particle, it stabilizes into observable reality. But until that collapse is reinforced, the system can drift between probabilities. Consciousness works in the same way. The more consistently you broadcast the frequency of your chosen reality, the more solidly it forms around you. Imagine tuning a radio station. At first, static drifts in and out. But once you lock onto the right signal, clarity becomes constant. Spiritual traditions echo this wisdom. The yogis speak of abhyasa, consistent practice. Christianity speaks of walking by faith, not sight. Taoism calls it wu-wei, effortless alignment. The language shifts across cultures, but the principle remains eternal. Stability is born from persistence in your chosen way of being, not perfection, not control, simply returning again and again to alignment until it becomes natural. That is why daily gratitude, meditation, and breath practices are so transformative. They train the nervous system to remain anchored in creation rather than survival. They remind your biology that coherence is safe, trust is natural, alignment is your baseline. Now imagine what happens when you not only leap, but live from the leap consistently. Your nervous system adapts, your brain rewires, your electromagnetic field amplifies. The universe responds not just with occasional synchronicities, but with an entire reorganization of reality. Miracles stop being rare events and become your everyday environment. You no longer chase shifts, you live inside a state of perpetual evolution, where growth and expansion are continuous. In this space, manifestation is no longer an effort, but a rhythm, an unfolding. Let today's message be crystal clear. The turbulence you faced, the silence you endured, the test you passed, the calm you now feel, none of it is random. These are confirmations that the quantum shift is real. The work now is simple, but not always easy. To live from it, to choose again and again to embody who you have already become. Remember, you are not waiting for the future to arrive. You are collapsing the future into this very moment. And when you do, the universe has no choice but to meet you there. So hold steady, stay coherent, keep your heart open and your breath calm. The shift is here. You are already living it.